Welcome to Wednesday Evening Encore. I'm your host, Christopher D. Thomas. I hope everyone is doing well. Listen, earlier today, I named a tension that hides in plain sight. Not the tension of being still, but the tension of moving. There is a kind of motion that feels productive. It looks productive and is rewarded as productive. It reduces pressure in the moment and creates pressure later. The pressure that comes from assuming that movement equals progress. And most leaders never pause long enough to test that assumption. And by the time that they do, momentum has already built its own logic. Now, this shows up in how leaders manage their days. Calendar blocks are filled with activity. However, they cannot be traced back to direction. Teams that celebrate being busy and cannot explain what they're busy becoming. It's visible in leaders who execute flawlessly and quietly avoid choosing where they're going. It stays hidden because momentum produces evidence. Emails are sent, meetings are attended, tasks are checked, deadlines are met. Direction produces ambiguity before it produces evidence. And most environments are allergic to that. Now, the cost is subtle. The cost is motion without migration. Effort without orientation. And the cost is identity shaped by demand instead of direction. Now, a leader stops asking, moving toward what, and starts asking how fast. And it keeps going because momentum feels good. Momentum justifies itself. You know, it gives no reason to sleep, to sleep, no reason to stop. It generates its own energy. Soon, decisions become relative. Priorities become inherited. Purpose becomes implied. And because nothing breaks, nothing gets questioned. Now, what direction have you sacrificed in order to maintain momentum? Now, if voices in this room were surface, patterns would absolutely emerge. Some would describe seasons of intense movement with no clear sense of arrival. Others will notice that their most active months were their least directional. Someone would talk about goals set reactively to justify the pace they're already moving at. Another would recognize how often they accept invitations because momentum makes refusal feel costly. There would be stories of teams that executed well and strategically poorly. They strategized was done horribly. But they executed well. They'll tell their teams about how well they execute. Of leaders who are praised for responsiveness and rarely evaluated for direction. Of organizations that scale capacity without defining orientation. No one would talk about failure. They would talk about drift. Drift in mission, drift in standards, drift in identity. And some would notice a strange fatigue that does not map to their level of accomplishment. Others will recognize that direction is uncomfortable because it introduces trade-offs that motion moves. The pattern would not sound chaotic. They would sound reasonable. That is why they keep going. That's why they persist. This tension does not need to be solved here. It does not require acceleration or deceleration. It can remain uncorrected, unexplained, unresolved. Take it back into your week without defending it or naming it to someone else, to anyone else, matter of fact. And notice where motion continues without direction.